This video is a continuation of my first two videos of the Trina Williams story of a man impersonating a police officer but does not go to jail. Below is a link to those two videos. I am doing this video in hopes of finding other victims who have gone through similar situations. On January 27 of 2010, I was sitting in a crowded McDonald's restaurant off of Lamar and Runberg of Austin, Texas, when a large Caucasian man in hunting gear came up to me and began bothering me. To make a long story short, when I refused to talk to this man, he threatened me that he was an undercover cop and I pretty much better do what he said or else. When he refused to provide me with his name and badge number, I contacted 911, where they dispatched 3 male officers. There was a room full of people and there was cameras everywhere inside this McDonald's. But this man was not arrested. It wasn't until later on, when I received a copy of my police report, I learned as why the man who was impersonating a police officer was not arrested. According to the suspect, pretending to be a cop, the reason why he came up and began bothering me was because I had a cell phone and it looked like I stole it. In a public restaurant full of people, where basically everyone was on their cell phones, either talking, sending emails, or texting, it looked like I stole my cell phone. And I would like to read to you from a copy of my police report on page 4 here. It goes on to say, I won't provide the names right now, but I do plan on posting this to my webpage and my blog. So I try to read it without stating the names. The officer spoke to the suspect, who identified himself. The officer then goes on to say that the suspect started telling him that Williams, which is myself, phone was probably stolen. The officer then stated that the suspect said he could just tell that the things that she owned or I owned were stolen, and he could tell because he was a judge. He tells the officer he's a judge. This is the phone that the suspect was referring to. This is an i465 clutch Boost Mobile prepaid phone. As you can see, this phone is not a Galaxy. It's not an Android. It's not an iPhone. It's not even a BlackBerry like some of my friends own. It is an inexpensive, prepaid, no contract phone. And the reason why I had the phone at the time was because I could not afford some of the higher end phones like my friends have. According to Boost Mobile, this phone is now obsolete. I can no longer even use it as a pay-as-you-go phone. But according to the suspect, it looked like I stole my cell phone while sitting in a public McDonald's. I don't know if this man have done this to someone else, or was there other victims before me, but this man lied. He was trying to force me to engage in a conversation with him, and I believe eventually tried to lead me away from the McDonald's by impersonating a police officer. And all he had to do or say was that it looked like I stole my cell phone while sitting in a public McDonald's restaurant, eating or drinking coffee, waiting to catch the bus so I can go to work and earn a living. And I would like to continue to read to you here on page 7 of the police report. It goes on to say, the officer stated that he did not make an arrest for the suspect impersonating a public servant because he felt there were credibility issues with the victim. According to the Texas Penal Code, Section 3711, impersonating a public servant, and I would like to read just part of this to you. A person commits an offense if he impersonate a public servant with intent to induce another to submit to his pretended official authority or to rely on his pretended official acts, or knowingly purports to exercise any function of a public servant or of a public office, including that of a judge. An offense under this section is a felony of the third degree. This has destroyed my life. At night, I can still hear the voice of the man replaying itself over and over. I am afraid to drive to work in the morning from I-35 in tow headed south, and I am afraid to return home from Ben White and I-35 headed back north. I am afraid to drive to the ACC Northridge campus, and at times I am even afraid to shop at my local H-E-B. According to the police report, my credibility was questioned. There was cameras everywhere inside this McDonald's. I have been harassed by these strange men in public restaurants, at bus stops, grocery store, at the gym. I have had both of my tires slashed. I have come home to blood and urine on my walls. I have had my back patio door kicked in. I have had my walls cut or ripped up. I have had strangers or someone knock on my door, and when I go to answer the door, there is a piece of rotten meat or a piece of an animal organ left at my door. I have relocated to 2 different apartments, and when I relocated to the 3rd apartment, when I came outside, there was a dead rabbit hanging on the side of my door. After maintenance supposedly removed the animal, parts of that rabbit showed up on my balcony a couple of days later. It was then removed again, and still a couple of days later, a piece of the dead rabbit's foot was next to my flower pot. I have driven almost an hour away to 10 different events, and when I come out, the air is let out of my tires. I have even attended a sisters' conference in support for women, but when I came out, a nail was in my tire during a 2-day conference. I would like to know, have this happened to anyone else, where these strange men are coming up to you, and if you do not make them feel comfortable in approaching you, or forcing you to talk to them, or touching you, or even if you have been raped in an incident like this, you are being threatened with the threat of a cop, or that they are undercover cop. Below is a link to my email.